Welcome to Fit Fun Abs. This is our creative outlet, if you like, for Fresh Community Wellness SCIO, allowing us to reach audiences, reach community members, as well as add in some expert advice, be informative, current, and touch on topics that are really important surrounding all things wellness. Here is a question and answer session with myself, Sam Raion, Chairman of Fresh Community Wellness, and Katie Reekie, Health Improvement Officer and Strategy for Aberdeen City Health and Social Care Partnership.
My name's Katie Reekie and I'm a Health Improvement Officer for Aberdeen City Health and Social Care Partnership. What would you say are your top 10 best food lists?
My best food list, Katie. Okay, it's quite conservative. Vegan, obviously, since I'm vegan. I love veggies. I always have loved veggies, even when I wasn't vegan. So especially things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, all I prefer raw. I prefer the flavors. And that right the way through to things like seeds, everything from like to chia seeds to sunflower seeds, nuts to pine kernels, and then I think we've talked about before, the fruits. I like some fruits, but I like especially like pink grapefruit, sour, or bittersweet, if you like, almost tasting, and occasionally dark chocolate with like the rice cakes or something like that, and always lots of spices and lots of herbs. I like flavor, not too hot, but flavor. What about yourself?
Well, mine's a little bit of the opposite. So I love pasta, and it's stodgy. It's a comfort food. I like stodgy food, I guess. I love gnocchi. Peppers. One time I ate so many strawberries that they didn't stay inside me for very long. I can just eat and eat and eat strawberries until I'm ill. Apples, great. I sound like a fruitarian. I like cucumber. Oh, I love hummus.
Oh, hummus, that's a good choice.
I could eat it all day. I feel like I'm running out of food that I actually enjoy. Oh, I said strawberries. Can I say strawberries again?
double topping strawberries.
And I love popcorn.
Popcorn's a great one. I should have had that. It's one of my favorites.
But I find kind of carby foods just so comforting, and I also love any cheese. Like what's it called? The charcuterie boards. I could just have a cheese board to myself. Okay, next question. Can you tell me 2 truths and a lie?
2 truths and 1 lie. Okay, I've run a marathon, a bench press, 250 kilos, and I'm a member of Mensa.
The lie, that's quite hard. I'm going to say the marathon.
Is the lie?
Yeah.
No, it's the 250 kilos bench press.
That is pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's a long story short. My dad used to do weights, and that was his best, was 250 kilos at 50 years old. That was
really?
His best. He got at 50.
That's amazing. Oh, I would love to be. Soon I will be that strong.
One day. Same here. Now for you, Katie, 2 truths and 1 lie.
I went to Robert Gordon University and studied a couple degrees. My favourite animal in the whole world is dogs, and I've ran a marathon.
Now I know we've mentioned Robert Gordon's before, so I'm going to say that's the truth. To me, you have. So I'm thinking that's the truth, and I know you're educated anyway, so we'll go with Robert Gordon's. Now the marathon or dogs, I know you've got the fitness certainly to do marathon without a shadow of a doubt, but I'm sure I remember you mentioning you've got a thing for dogs as well. I'm going to say the marathon's a lie.
Yes, you're right, but it's on my to-do list. So I will do a marathon. I will do I would love to do an Ironman.
Oh, why can't we do our own Aberdeen something Ironman style? I think that'd be fantastic.
So imagine there was an event type of Ironman in Aberdeen. I think it'd be so popular actually. Just kind of for you, Sam, why would you, what's important for you regards health and well-being? And because I think it's a topic that needs to be discussed more often and just made into, everyday life. You just check up on your pals or whoever it is.
I absolutely agree, Katie, and also take away that stigma of, anything to do with health. You often see people shutting down at that mention of, oh, this is healthy or that's. Whereas to me, when I'm deliberately trying to do these things to get my fitness and health back up, I really enjoy looking for healthy options and things like hummus and incredible, even on a budget, good foods and healthy options. So I think my answer would really be so that everyone can access things like that, the advice from the podcast on healthy options, free advice, fitness, and myth busting as well as keeping it fully inclusive, so that there's something for everyone. But it's, everyone can reach out and know that that's factual information, as opposed to the myths that sorry, I'm getting into a rant. That's my pet hate, is things like fad diets and celebrity things and Facebook, things that go along for ages that can cause so much harm that aren't factually based. So I think that to me is important, breaking down the myths.
I don't know if you find it, but if I'm just, at night scrolling on social media and it's these trends that you get, like these health, it's the keto diet or whatever it's called, and those like diet pills and all these things. It's like, oh, have this and you'll be a size 6 or these unrealistic and I think really harmful things that can be easily accessible in the media, and they just go everywhere and you think that's normal. And I think it's so dangerous because if you're not an expert in the if you're not really educated in a certain health topic or well-being, whatever it is that's being advertised, I think it can be so harmful. And people become really ill when they order these tablets online or whatever it is that supposedly is meant to help their health and well-being, but it does the complete opposite effect.
And it's, to me, I absolutely concur. It's so easily accessible. It's, on your apps page or your games page, it's right beside there. Is a fasting, 72 hours fasting or whatever. And those things, as you'll know, you're far better trained than I, but people see that instant reduction in perhaps weight because they're not eating, but they don't understand things like, as you know, the bodily processes need to be turning and operating, or there'll just be a buildup of toxins. So I think with them being sold as that sort of detoxifying effect, it almost gives like carte blanche to people going out doing the excessive alcohol thing, which I don't agree with particularly either, and then being able to use this amazing detoxifying diet pill without knowing the full story. It scares me.
No, I get that. And I think personally for me, I think it's so important to discuss, if it's with my friends, family, or this podcast, the importance of your health and well-being for you, because for me, my health helps me overcome different challenges that are kind of thrown at me in life. Because if I use exercise as a coping mechanism for when things are if it's been a long day or I'm just struggling with whatever's going on personally, that's my well-being. It's my kind of calm, it's me time. It's kind of like meditation for some or yoga for others. It kind of keeps me calm, and I love feeling strong and that I can push myself, and I get like quite a kick out of it. But I feel it's so important to discuss these topics, because I think when you first kind of open up to someone, you feel almost not ashamed. I don't know, I feel embarrassed, but then you should never feel embarrassed or I think the big problem is people feel like they're a burden if they open up about depression, anxiety, whatever it is. And I think speaking about this, and us sharing that chat about it, it's so normal, and we should all be speaking about these things because it's so important for you. You're number one, and you've got to look after number one, because if you don't, you're going to be, I think, useless, not in a bad way, but
No, I completely understand that. I think that hierarchy of values almost, you sort of get retrained in, obviously coming from a recovery background. Is it number one?
yeah.
People say, is it my recovery? Is it me? It's got to be you first before anything else, because if you don't exist and you're not looking after yourself, you can't do all those other things, be it family, be it work pressures, be it whatever the situation. And it's hard for people to put themselves first sometimes.
Yeah, because I think when you are struggling, you're going through a rough time, and you're trying to get out of this kind of weird stage you're in, it's so exhausting, and it takes up, it can take up all your brain thoughts, and all your capacity is totally full with. And then when, say, work stressful, I think that can push people over the edge because you're like, I can't cope. And I think then it's like, you don't need to if you don't want to, but it's having, even if it's not your family and friends, because it's hard sometimes to tell people something's going on in the background, just having someone to speak to and letting it all out, and it's okay to feel this way because we all do at some point, I think.
Well, I certainly do. I agree with that, and I love the fact you use the exercise in that way. Even with me on a slightly lesser level, for me it's going out for walks early on. Originally, I'd been at that point where I'm in pain. You struggle to sleep, but that's my go-to as well. Is to go out and walk and have a bit of movement, and that to me is exactly the same. It's like mindfulness, And even if there are thoughts there, it gives me time to go through them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, process. No, I totally
process them. Yeah.
Yeah, because I go to Duffy quite a lot, and I just kind of walk around, and I look at all the dogs, pat a few, and I just feel kind of peaceful. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm away from whatever stresses there are, and it's me time to just go through the different things in my head, or it's just gets away from reality almost. It's like an escapism, but in a good way.
Yeah, it's positive escapism.
Yeah.
Even like, obviously we're chatting now, you're still, and you'll be the same, you still get pop-ups and alerts coming up on the computer or one of the other screens. So even now you still don't have that peace and serenity. So if we could give something, even if people can listen to it, I think, like we mentioned with the podcast, and even if it's just an audio file that's easy to download, and they could be having a walk along the beach or a walk around the park.
Love the beach. What do you, what's your hopes? What do you want to achieve with doing, completing this podcast?
My hope, yes. Yeah. I hope to achieve the podcast. Sorry, I'm joking. No, it's great to be achieving these things. For me, I find it exciting, and also the fact that it's breaking through things like stereotypes, barriers, stigma. Even in our short conversation there, we've broken through a lot, and we've done that myth busting. And I find that fascinating, and being able to hear it from someone that knows what they're talking about is so beneficial, like yourself. And then, as you mentioned, when we've got experts coming in from different arenas, it just raises that up. So to me, it makes it accessible. My hope is that it's easy for everyone to understand. It is simplified to a point, but it's provided by experts with their own sort of technical language, if you like. But it's broken down by like myself on a basic level, run professionally by yourself, and then with those experts that hopefully we can reach people on all different levels.
Yeah, definitely.
What about for yourself?
I hope this podcast, like you said, kind of take away barriers, because I think if someone, I don't know if everyone's the same, but if you're going through a hard time, I think people can almost be in denial and not want to. They want to kind of not accept that they might need someone to speak to, or a resource, like Samaritans, whoever it might be. and that we're just speaking about it, and it's completely normal. People be like, oh, so it's not embarrassing that I can go and phone this number or go find a therapist for support in this area. And it's, you know, sharing these resources, tools and tips that we know of, and then when we have the guest speakers, and we can just make it such a safe space, and you know, we're never alone. And I think when you're in these rubbish, going through these hard times, if it's medical well-being side, you know, it's important for people to know you're never alone, even if you don't want, because sometimes you might not want to speak to anyone, and keep yourself to yourself and push anyone away that's important to you. But it's just so, just, you gotta speak about it and let it out, because your well-being comes first. What is your most inspiration? What inspires you?
I had to think about this question. So what inspires me? I do love people that have achieved great things within, like, sort of academia, finance, celebrity, to a point, whether it's sports people. I admire that, but only when they remain grounded, if that makes sense, or they use it in such a way that, you know, they're inspiring and lifting other people up with it. You know, to me, it's fantastic if someone's a multi-billionaire, but to me, if they're not doing anything with that, if then the achievement is, yes, that's incredible, but the inspiring bit for me is that they've stayed grounded, and they've used it to help others. And I think along those lines, but perhaps a different end of the scale, is I'm inspired by people who faced adversities, you know, from either the cause they were dealt with, be it through ability or lack of ability, injuries, adverse childhood experiences. That inspires me that they've overcome them, and more often than not, you know, they're going on to inspire others themselves, and that gives me goosebumps even speaking about it. I love things like that. And my last one, what inspires me the most, is the natural world. I love nature, all of it. I think it's incredible. From people to the environment, I love the whole thing.
No, that I agree with so much of what you said there, and I don't know, I don't feel the same, but I think I get inspired when I see others that they get up every day no matter what's going on, and they kind of keep going, you know, and they don't let, if it's a medical issue or anything, stop them, and they keep pushing. And even if they've been told bad news or that things are going to have to change for whatever reason it is, they keep smiling every day, and they keep supporting others. And it just, it inspires me so much, because I'm like, I want to do that. I want to be that person that doesn't give up no matter, you know, you keep going.
Having that resilience,
I agree. Also inspired by that type of person that just, they keep helping others. And I'm like, oh, it makes me feel quite emotional actually when I see someone that's not well, or you don't see it on the surface, but they keep going. And I'm like, I just find it so inspiring, and I hope to be just, even if it's a tiny little bit, just like that person, and supports. You know, I want to help as much. I definitely get a buzz when I help someone. I feel really good, even if it's, I do now and then. It's if I'm on a wee walk and something else, and someone's unfortunate, they don't have a home and they're living in the streets. I buy them a meal deal, and I feel really good about, you know, I felt this person, because they might not be able to afford a meal tonight, and I feel really good. And you know, you have a conversation with them because they're a person, and it's just like having these conversations and meeting all these people and finding out about people. I just feel so inspired. I'm like, oh, I love it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that's an incredible thing. And just so the same as myself, people in general that keep on going no matter what. And I find that inspiring, the fact you're saying that you see people, whereas it's too often classed as people who are unseen and unheard, people sitting there. And the fact you're engaging with them, I find inspiring.
I just feel like there's so many people that their voices aren't heard, and they're not considered, not, it's almost like they're not seen as important enough to be heard. And I think that happens way too often in so many, in every organization. And I think I just wish people, stopped and thought, just took a moment just to stop and be calm and share the love.
Yeah,
I don't
no, that's
know.
true.
I do get inspired when you see people make such a positive change in their life. If it's, making more healthy choices because they want to support their health in the long run, if they want to be as independent for as long as possible, or go do this event and, they've gone from one level of fitness to a total different. And, seeing all these things, I'm like, wow. I was a little bit nervous for this one. I don't know why, because I feel this is a bit more of a personal one. Do you want to go first?
Can do. I think you were sort of catching me with the end of your inspiring discussion. Is that obviously that's a lot of my challenges in there. So I'm
Okay.
sort of. I got to a point where I was ticking almost every box of the never to be heard or never to be listened to and or appreciated in any way point. In that, I did suffer from anger issues, from that were issues from trauma that was unresolved, childhood things. So there was all challenges, some behavioral issues, which was essentially like sort of ADHD, being too hyper, and parts of the autistic spectrum, social awkwardness. So even doing something like this to me is overcoming a challenge. Yeah. But it's great to be doing, and I feel the more things like this I do, then hopefully that'll help other people overcome those things. And the other groups, I guess, that I'd say I've sort of lifted myself out of, are the likes of criminality and obviously addiction and substances and stuff. And I dug a pretty deep hole for myself, and so that was a challenge. But then moving forward, it's been the health side of things.
Yeah.
And then furthermore to that, because of my interest in things and being a member of things like obviously the task force and stuff like that, they tend to use my vocabulary isn't the best, but they use some pretty impressive words, and I'm trying to Google them quickly in the corner.
I do that every day.
Because I'll know the word, but then I'm thinking, what is it?
What is
No,
that?
yeah, and then you start doubting yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that's a challenge that for me. I've admitted on record that I struggle with all the time. I'll know it, but I just start that self-doubt. So I'm still working on that one.
So I can understand that it's scary to, anyone can listen to these, and thank you for sharing. I think for me, challenge would be maybe body image issues, because as a young woman, and you see so much on social media, and I think it's so hard. Well, I know I think I'm maybe still in this weird phase in my life, but I'll let you know the end of when I get over it. But I'm really bad for comparing myself and be like, oh my goodness, I don't have that. I don't look like her. And I think I set unrealistic goals for myself. If I've got to do the gym every single day, because if I don't, I'll put weight on, and all, these just silly pressures. And I think it's physically mentally and physically, like, whoa, I'm so tired. And I've struggled to listen to my body, because I like to kind of push it. I get a buzz pushing it to the extreme sometimes, but I know that's not always the healthiest way to be. So I think my tips for any, I think it's become such a spoken about issue because of the lockdowns. But I still think so much more work is, because the services in this area are really struggling, because so many young women and men or anyone are struggling with this, and they keep it to themselves. And it's heavy when it's on your shoulders, and you're like, it's hard, because it's, you're trying to be perfect, and what is perfect? because all these images you see, they're not real, and it's actually, I think it's about being happy. It's not about looking perfect, and that is what we're working on. So I think I speak to my friends, and I use exercise in a healthy way. I'm working on that. Just I want to feel strong. I'm not doing it to look better. I'm doing it for me. Because I've got the fear that I'm going to like develop sarcopenia. So when I think it's you can start that when you're 35, and it's just your muscles kind of deteriorate and stuff, and you fall easier and all these things. So I'm sarcopenia, and I want to feel strong and that I can lift this heavy weight and do it right and do it well, type of thing. And I'm quite into journaling, so if I'm been a long day, I get like my wee journal. It's got bumblebees on. It's really cute, and I just write. I don't even think. I just write whatever's in my head. It's half the time it's super dyslexic, but we roll, and it makes me feel I kind of let out whatever's worries I have, and yeah, it's kind of some me time, which I think is so important. But yeah, so I think I'm still working on that, and I think everyone's working on something that they find hard.
Thanks so much, Katie. It's really important to remember that it's baby steps. Keeping on moving forwards is the key. We look forward to you tuning in to more podcasts coming soon. Stay safe, and remember, start every day fresh.